Hello and welcome. You're watching the Newstrack. I'm Rahul Kanwal. What are the lessons for Indian politics from the assassination bid on former President Donald Trump? Are we in a zone where shrill, polarized political rhetoric on both sides of the political divide could potentially be creating fertile breeding ground for lone wolf attackers to attempt a similar assault of the kind that we saw in Pennsylvania? Politics exploding in a massive way in India about who's to blame and why, and we'll dive into it on the Newstrack tonight.
After Trump dodges death bullet.
Take a look what happened.
Spotlight on deadly rhetoric. Dangerous words provoking anger. American echoes in Indian politics. With fiery political temperatures. Is India immune to triggered actions?
Former US President Donald Trump has said he was saved either by luck or by God. This after Thomas Matthew Crooks made an assassination effort on the US President in Pennsylvania. And that's the one story that's being tracked globally. In a moment from now, we'll start looking at the fallout in India and how parties are saying that rhetoric made by their opponents is creating a circumstance where a similar attack could happen in India. But could it really? So first, let's bring you all the latest from the United States, where Donald Trump has just done an interview. He's very clearly aiming to use this attack as leverage in the elections in November.
Former US President Donald Trump narrowly escaped death after a shooter opened fire at him during an election rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday. Trump sustained a minor injury in his right ear and was seen clutching his bloodied ear as US Secret Services surrounded him and escorted him off the stage. A day after the assassination attempt on Trump, the Federal Bureau of Investigation named 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks as the suspect who was shot dead. The attacker was armed with a semi-automatic AR-15 gun.
This evening we had...
The FBI says it will probe Trump assassination attempt as an act of domestic terror, even as motive of the attack is yet to be identified.
Take a look at what happened.
Trump thanked law enforcement agencies and said that God prevented the unthinkable. The Republican leader went on to say that he loved his country and that it is important to stay united. Trump is in Milwaukee in the US to be a part of a crucial Republican convention where he will be formally named as the presidential candidate. Former First Lady of America, Melania Trump, spoke out for the first time after the shooting. She condemned the assassination attempt and urged Americans to set aside political differences to consider leaders as humans with families. President Joe Biden, in his address to the nation after the shooting, called for a lowering of temperature in politics.
Last night, I spoke with Donald Trump. I'm sincerely grateful that he's doing well and recovering, and we had a short but good conversation. Jill and I are keeping him and his family in our prayers. We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victim who was killed. The FBI is leading this investigation, which is still in its early stages. We don't yet have any information about the motive of the shooter. We know who he is. I urge everyone, please, don't make assumptions about his motives or his affiliations. Let the FBI do their job and their partner agencies do their job.
Take a look at what happened.
The images of Trump's fist bump right after the shooting has rallied his voters and donors. The incident could help Trump bolster the lead he already enjoys over Biden in popular ratings. Bureau Report, India Today.
There's massive blame game between the Democrats and the Republicans over who's responsible for the assassination bid on Donald Trump. The Republicans are saying the kind of language spoken by Joe Biden and Democrats is what is responsible for this attack, because they were calling Donald Trump a fascist, calling him a threat to democracy and to the American Constitution. The BJP latched onto that by saying that is exactly what Rahul Gandhi and Congress leaders have been attempting against Prime Minister Modi in India as well. The Congress has hit back saying that that argument is ridiculous and that this is just cheap politics.
Take a look at what happened.
The Donald Trump shooting continues to reverberate across the globe. In America, the Republicans and Democrats are trading charges, accusing each other of creating the atmosphere that triggered the assassination bid. Republicans have immediately blamed the shooting on Democrats and Joe Biden calling Trump a threat to democracy. Others have blamed the radical left for incessantly calling Trump a fascist or worse. In a TV ad that Biden's campaign released earlier this month, a narrator warned that the Supreme Court's recent ruling that Trump can't be prosecuted for official acts done during his presidency would allow him to rule like a king if he wins a second term.
The president can ignore the law, even to commit a crime, because Donald Trump asked them to. He's already led an insurrection and threatened to be a dictator on day one. Donald Trump can never hold this office again.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
In India too, it has triggered an explosive war of words, with the BJP accusing Congress MP and leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi of inciting violence against Prime Minister Modi. It even raked up the security breach during Narendra Modi's visit to Punjab's Firozpur in 2022. The BJP claims that Congress is creating conditions for political violence in India by calling the Prime Minister a dictator and anti-democracy.
कांग्रेस पार्टी की स्थिति ये है कि जब थोक में हार होती है तो रुलाई, और जब फुटकर में जीत होती है तो धुलाई। फुटकर में थोड़ी बहुत कहीं जीत हो जाएगी तो फिर विरोधी राजनीतिक पार्टियों की धुलाई शुरू कर देंगे। तो इस तरह की रुलाई धुलाई जो है वो सियासी सेहत के लिए हानिकारक होती है, उनको समझना चाहिए।
The Congress has called the BJP's attack at Rahul Gandhi cheap politics and has accused the Prime Minister and the BJP of inciting hatred against its party leadership.
RSS is an organization which spreads hate. Congress is an organization which spreads love. We all know that Mr. Rahul Gandhiji's family members too, two of them, Indira Gandhi ji as well as Rajiv Gandhi ji, has been victim of political violence. He stands for love and affection, and these kind of fake news factories of BJP will be defeated.
In an extremely polarized world, will such rhetoric only create deeper divides in democracies? Bureau Report, India Today.
The assassination attempt on former US President Donald Trump leading to furious politics back home, with the BJP alleging that the Congress party's divisive politics is creating circumstances for a similar attempt on the life of Prime Minister Modi. The Congress says don't politicize what happened in the US and that we've suffered too at the hands of assassins, whether it is Indira Gandhi or Rajiv Gandhi. But let's spend some time looking at what's really at play. Politics in India has, over the past few years, got more acrimonious, more divisive than it has been. Does that then create extreme like and dislike towards your supporters and opponents? Do those in one wing start hating those who represent the other? And does that then potentially create circumstances similar to what we've seen in the US, where you had this unfortunate attempt on the life of Donald Trump? Joining us to discuss this, I want to welcome first Amit Malviya, in charge of BJP's IT cell, member of the National Executive of the BJP, squaring off against him. We've got Mahima Singh from the Congress Party. Abhijit Iyer Mitra has strong views on this, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. We've got Vivek Kajju, former Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, and Sanjay Jha, who's a political analyst. I want to start by getting Amit Malviya to set up this debate and explain why he thinks the kind of politics that we've been seeing of late sets the stage for a similar attack or an attempt or an assassination of the kind that was attempted in the United States. Mr. Malviya, let's start from there.
Rahul, first of all, what we saw in America is very disconcerting. And the assassination bid on Donald Trump's life is a rude awakening for world leaders across. We've seen the Japanese Premier Shinzo Abe. He was taken out in an assassination attempt like this. We had the Slovakian Prime Minister, Robert Fico, a target of an assassination attempt. And now Trump. Trump is not just an aspirant for the president's office, he's also the former president of America. Now let's come to India. Has Prime Minister Modi been targeted in the past? Have there been attempts on his life? The answer is yes. In 2013, in a rally in Patna, several bombs went off, and later it was learned that there was a bomb right under the dais on which several leaders were, and there was a suicide bomber who wanted to attack the Prime Minister. We've seen how Punjab police, when it was under the Congress, was completely lackadaisical about Prime Minister's security. His convoy was left stranded on a flyover for several minutes in breach of all norms. Let's come to the politics of it. There is erring similarity between what we are seeing in the United States and what we saw in India recently. One of the themes of campaign in America is democracy is in danger. What would it be here in India? संविधान को बचाना है, constitution खतरे में है. The similarities don't end there. Biden routinely calls Trump a dictator. Rahul Gandhi used the same words for Prime Minister Modi on several occasions. The rhetoric that if Trump gets elected, there will be no elections thereafter, the constitution will be suspended, and so on and so forth. We've heard similar narratives here कि अगर भाजपा जीत जाती है तो संविधान खतरे में पड़ जाएगा, चुनाव नहीं होंगे, this will become a dictatorship. Much like the race theory in America, caste has been sought to weaponize here in India. A particular community was targeted and a myth was perpetuated that if the BJP comes back to power, reservations will be taken away and a certain community will suffer. Now, if the consequence of all these rhetorical statements was an assassination bid on Trump's life, why will it be any different in India? But in India, Rahul Gandhi has gone a step further. He has, in his public speeches, actually said things like, "Log Modi ko dande marenge." He has gone on to make light of unfortunate episode that happened in Banaras, in fact justifying it. We've had issues when several agitations were going on in the country and we've seen the left come out and raise slogans like Marja Modi. So it's not as if Prime Minister Modi's life has not been on target. Rahul Gandhi has encouraged and in fact justified the attack on him. And before the Congress claims that their own leaders have got assassinated, I want to remind them that they were assassinated for political decisions that they took. But even as Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi's convoy was stoned on several occasions. There have been very unpopular incidents that have happened with both Indira and Rajiv. We condemn that, but the progeny of the Gandhis today is actually wishing death and assault on Prime Minister Modi. His rhetoric is very similar to the one that we are seeing in the United States. So who is the one stringing what is happening in the United States and what happened here in India? Just one last point, Rahul.
Okay. So, Amit,
is there a puppeteer here? Is Rahul Gandhi a prop? And is the American politics now reflecting what we saw here in India? Those are the questions that we need to ask.
So you've set the stage for this debate You're saying that Rahul Gandhi has been calling Prime Minister Modi a fascist, a dictator, an autocrat, and that the political tropes are similar to what we've seen in the United States, whether it's on caste, where you got race in the US, constitution, democracy being in danger. Mahima Singh, respond to this argument being pushed by the BJP that the politics of the Congress and the kind of spectre of hatred that is sought to be created against the Prime Minister is potentially creating a breeding ground for a similar assassination attempt on the life of our Prime Minister.
Jai Hind. Rahul, ahimsa paramo dharma satyagraha. That is the ideology that the Congress has always propagated ever since the times of Mahatma Gandhi. But it is saddening to say and remind the nation of the assassination of our very dear Bapu, of the father of the nation, who was assassinated by the hatred ideology that where the BJP finds its roots actually. So when we talk about violence, of course it is condemnable. Violence, where violence is there, peace will of course not be there. But where is the violence being propagated in this country? That is what needs to be seen and fixed. The likes of Gyandev Ahuja, the likes of Parvesh Verma, the likes of Ramesh Bidhuri, who can abuse a sitting MP on the floor of the House, they belong to the ideology of the BJP. When you talk about the Congress, we have lost our leaders. We have lost 2 sitting prime ministers of the country to that extremist mindset, which the BJP propagates and the RSS propagates. I was listening very carefully to the BJP leader when he was speaking about violence, and it almost seems as if the BJP is trying to float across a conspiracy theory against or in fact they are suggesting perpetration of assassination of our Prime Minister, which I think is absolutely the BJP's whimsical, vicious idea. Probably, it's more reflective of their ideology rather than the Congress party. Because as I already said, ahimsa paramo dharma. That is the ideology we have always not only reflected or not only carried the flag of, but that is where we belong. That is what we wear the torch of. So I do not know where the BJP is getting these
Abhijit
ideas
Iyer
from.
Mitra,
Of course.
Do you think that this was in some senses predictable, that this was a assassination attempt which could have pretty much been foretold? The kind of divisive, sharp, shrill, polarized comments we've been hearing is really setting the stage for somebody who potentially is mentally disturbed, very angry, very frustrated, to make this kind of effort. And do you think there are some parallels in the kind of political conversations that we're seeing in India as well, Abhijit?
Thanks, Rahul. So there are there are similarities across the globe. If you look at it, the left always uses the language of dehumanization everywhere you go. Be it the Congress in India, be it the Democrats in America, be it the left in Slovakia, be it the left in Japan. They do this consistently. What is their thing about? Sure, they also ridicule Modi. They call him Feku and non-biological PM and all of that, which is funny. But the rest of it is that he's a tyrant, he's a Nazi, he's a dictator, he's a mass murderer, God knows what else. The implication is that if he stays in power, you are all in danger. What does the BJP, the Republicans, especially Trump and people do like that in return? They mock and ridicule. Rahul Gandhi is called Papu. Trump calls Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. You see, nobody is incited to kill a joker. People are incited to kill a to-be Hitler. And the problem here is none of them either bother or care about the weight and gravitas of their words. Like Amit said, the INC Congress handle made fun of the fact that a chappal was thrown at the Prime Minister. It could have very well been a grenade. Then Rahul Gandhi himself comes out and says, "Loga danda aake marenge Modi ko." So this is the kind of thing that keeps happening systematically over and over again. And then what happens is the left-wing press comes and normalizes all of this. You saw the headlines of the New York Times. You saw the headlines of the Washington Post. You saw the headlines CNN was running, USA Today was running after they did not want to call it an assassination attempt. Even Joe Biden and Barack Obama in their tweets, what did they say? There has been an event. There has been political violence. Call it what it is, an assassination. They won't do that. what ends up happening here is you will see the same thing out here where everything is whitewashed. There has been an encounter killing in Tamil Nadu, for example. Now, the same Congress that goes berserk every time there's an encounter killing in UP, absolute pin drop silence from them on the encounter killing in Tamil Nadu. The same thing, if you notice, happens over and over again here as well. Even when the call to exterminate all Hindus was made by Udayanidhi Stalin, the Congress did not come out and condemn it till the Tamil Nadu phase of the elections was over, 2 months later. So this is one systematic pattern. It is not just here, it is also...
Rahul, please.
Sanjay Jha, you know, when Rahul Gandhi, when there was a slipper thrown on the cavalcade of Prime Minister Modi, Congress leaders suggested that this was comeuppance, that he was kind of, you know, building in the direction of this was bound to happen. Similarly, language like Danda Marenge. Now, both Amit Malviya and Abhijit Iyer argue that this is setting the grounds for somebody who's angry, frustrated, to attempt what we saw in the United States, where an attempt was made on the life of former President Donald Trump, and that is exactly the direction in which we're going. There's a Thomas Matthew Crooks somewhere who's being encouraged to do what happened in Pennsylvania.
Rahul, good evening. I think the BJP IT cell clearly hasn't done its homework well today. As far as Thomas Matthew Crooks is concerned, reportedly he is a registered Republican. I mean, that is the first thing that we need to tell the viewers, that, you know, it is very easy to cast aspersions, but he probably belongs to the right wing that Nathuram Godse represented, who murdered Mahatma Gandhi. Here is a larger point. You know, of course, one has to condemn the attack on Trump. But can anybody, by the way, we guys, by the way, don't even matter. The people of America are investigating. The courts have indicted him for the former president and the current, you know, kind of Republican nominee to be, who actually encouraged an insurrection, political violence, while he was the president of the United States. So, you know, Rahul, the truth is, the extremism, you know, the conspiracy theories, and, you know, we all know who those people are, is basically it's a right-wing obsession. You look at the history of fake news, all political parties and all ideologies are guilty. But the right wing has a monopoly on the way they have actually created all these fabricated stories of very dangerous proportions. Here is the point. Since, you know, the BJP leaders mentioned America, do we know, Rahul, about the attack on Speaker Nancy Pelosi? You know, fortunately, she wasn't in the House, where a right-wing crackpot almost killed her husband. I mean, these are realities of our times. And let's come to India very quickly. Blaming Rahul Gandhi, I mean, that's rich. You have a situation since Mr. Modi became Prime Minister, where there has been a call for genocide against Muslims. Have you heard Mr. Modi condemn that? I think the Congress spokesperson mentioned Ramesh Bidhuri's speech, where in Parliament, the man literally abuses 200 million citizens of this country. Did Narendra Modi take any action against it as a Prime Minister? The answer is no. Third, lynching murders, almost reminiscent of, you know, the Ku Klux Klan, you know, in the United States, happening in daylight in India, and in fact has worsened since Mr. Modi became Prime Minister a few weeks ago. Are we going to turn our blind eye to that reality? So let me tell you the truth. Okay. No, one last point. During this campaign, Mr. Modi himself actually, you know, took dog whistle politics to another level, making hate speeches against Muslims unambiguously and absolutely with, you know, what I call as brazen impunity. And I think the BJP commenting on Republican attack on Trump and worrying about India, I think to frankly put it across, charity begins at home.
So this debate is hotting up. And I want to build on this further, but I first want to just get a non-partisan perspective from the former secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, Vivek Kaju. We've heard from those who are aligned along political corners. From your perspective, Mr. Kaju, are there parallels between what we're seeing in the US and the kind of shrill politics? Is one side more to blame than the other? Sanjay Jha argues, you know, that the BJP has also done and said things which are very dangerous calls for genocide, action against Muslims, which also would encourage violence, and therefore why just look at one side of the coin?
Rahul, I'm going to speak as a former diplomat. I don't want to get in the political slugfest which is taking place. First of all, as a former professional diplomat, I'm always very suspicious of transposing the realities of one country in another country. There are objective realities which prevail in each country, and one has to see those objective realities as they stand by themselves. Now, the second point that I will make is as an Indian citizen. As an Indian citizen, I'm truly distressed at the polarization that I see in our politics today. And I'll tell you the reason why I'm distressed. I think at no time in our recent history have we faced the kind of strategic challenges that we face today. They are immense in every sense of the term. And this is the time for the political class to come together, to face those challenges. For politics will take place, but every opportunity should not be utilized by one side or the other for playing politics. I think the government must reach out and the opposition must respond to their reaching out to find some common ground. The parliament session is about to take place, a new session on the budget session, which will be an exceedingly important session. Now, my last point. In the past, the political class, despite all the politics, had mechanisms by which they came together. Behind the scenes, their people they respected who might not belong to either of them, who might not be in active politics, but they tried to find common ground. I find that is absent altogether today.
Now, those are good points. Let Amit Malviya respond to what we are hearing. Point number one, Crooks is a Republican. Trump too called for violence. Conspiracy theories, Sanjay Jha said, are a right-wing obsession. When your leaders say, jute maro salon ko, when there are calls for genocide which are not condemned, all the lynching, he says this dog will still politics is a BJP obsession. So while you raise questions about what Congress leaders are doing, you're not holding the mirror to yourself and seeing the kind of divisive comments made by BJP leaders, which too could potentially encourage violence. It's a problem on both sides, not just on one side. Amit Malviya.
Sanjay Jha sounds like an apologist for Matthew Crooks, who made that assassination bid. And just since he does not ever come up with facts, let me tell him that he's part of George Soros-funded Antifa, a left-wing, anti-fascist, anti-racist movement in the United States. So before he comes and speaks, he should probably do his homework. Secondly, let's be very clear. How can there be these coincidences between what Rahul Gandhi spoke and what we are seeing in American politics? It takes me to the larger point that there is the puppeteer here who controlled strings of Rahul Gandhi in the Congress party. He's also controlling the string of the Democrats. How can two different political parties in two different parts of the world speak similar language unless there's a playbook that has been given to both these parties and said, go for these leaders? I name George Soros specifically. About a year ago, he went in media and he pledged $1 billion to bring down democratically elected governments, including Prime Minister Modi's. He called Prime Minister Modi a dictator. That is where Rahul Gandhi picked up the word. And then they have now come to promote certain YouTubers who did a video calling Prime Minister Modi a dictator. And crores of views were garnered on that video. If anybody goes and looks at the views of that YouTuber, you will find that there was a sharp uptick after this entire narrative was built up. So the while global left is working together around the globe to bring down powerful, popular leaders who they cannot control, George Soros has visited India in the past. He's visited India at the time when the Congress was leading the UPA. He was in India at the time when government formations were happening. I question the Congress party on his indulgence. And why is the Congress leadership constantly going abroad like Rahul Gandhi did and seeking foreign intervention?
Okay.
We've had several accounts.
Let Sanjay Jha respond.
2024 general election, Rahul. Let me finish that. The 2024 general election saw great deal of interference from foreign powers, from the deep state in France, in Germany, in the United Kingdom, in Europe, in America. George Soros is obviously a more well-known, acerbic old man who has dangerous ideas, and his men and his teams were collaborating with the Congress party. And therefore, I again reiterate that the Congress party is now a convenient prop for these foreign powers that are interested in putting in.
So you're saying the Videsh ka Haath, you're saying that this is George Soros, who's the puppeteer. He's writing the playbook, and whether it's the Democrats in the US or the Congress in India, they're dancing, according to Amit Malviya, to George Soros's playbook. Let Sanjay Jha respond to that.
Yeah. Rahul, I think the BJP IT cell head made a terrible Freudian slip on your program. He quoted George Soros and he said Sanjay Jha is very anti-fascist. Well, let me tell you, I am anti-fascist. And I hope everybody on this channel is anti-fascist, because the BJP IT cell has actually confirmed that he's pro-fascism. And he needs to probably say right now on the channel, is he pro-fascism? Or is he anti-fascism? I'm anti-fascism, and I will be, and I think all of us should be, because fascism is what, in fact, unfortunately, is the language or the vocabulary of the BJP. Tell me, Rahul, when the Prime Minister says, Congress Mukt Bharat, what does it remind you of? Obliterate the political opponent. Put Arvind Kejriwal in jail. Put Hemant Soren in jail. Doesn't it remind you of that very popular man with that great moustache who devastated the world in the 1930s? That is the language of Nazism. Can't we just accept that reality? So for the BJP today to sound, kind of very rich on George Soros almost sounds preposterous. And let me make the more important point, Rahul. This is a party that has weaponized hate and has demonized the minorities in this country. And they have done it, I think, in a brazen fashion. I don't think now there is even any debate on it. And therefore, I want to make this point that I don't think many people say it, that Mr. Modi, unfortunately, and I would say tragically, is the most polarizing prime minister that India has seen. And when you have polarization, it can lead to political violence. And I think we need to worry, because my worry, Rahul, is this. My one last point. My worry is this: it need not even be an organized violence. As the case of Thomas Crooks shows, a lone wolf can do some serious damage to individuals and puts everybody, including journalists, at high risk.
Abhijit Iyer, respond to what Sanjay Jha is saying. Demonizing minorities is a charge, weaponizing hate, creating circumstances of extreme polarization which can potentially lead to lone wolf violence, and that this isn't a problem of Congress saying things which can lead to attacks on the Prime Minister. Sanjay Jha says it's also the opposite, the kind of things said by people in the ruling party and the impact this can have on citizens or on opposition leaders.
Modi used the term Ghuspaiti. Mr. Sanjay Jha has gone and connected it to Muslims. Now, who is the anti-Muslim person out here? If Mr. Sanjay Jha sees every Muslim as a Ghuspaiti, that is not Modi's fault, number one. Number two, you see, there is a big... this is the problem with the Congress. Even in their truths, they hide the nuance, and it's a lie. Yes, Crooks was a Republican, but you look at, and being a Republican out there is nothing. You go to the office and you sign up. You look at all his funding patterns. 3 times around he has funded Antifa, and he is associated with George Soros. Who is George Soros? This is the same man as a Jew. As a Jewish kid in Hungary, he joined the SS and helped the SS confiscate properties of fellow Jews, hid pretending to be a Christian, and collaborated with the Nazis. I'm not saying this. He himself has said this in an interview. I've tweeted that link out. The second thing out here is, notice there is this consistent thing where they use one fact plucked out of context. Crooks. Why would he be funding? Funding money is important for a young man. Why would he be funding the extreme left, the violent extreme left like Antifa, when in fact he has got signing up for the member of the to be a member of the Republican Party? He is not mentally ill. He was planning this, as opposed to the attack on Nancy Pelosi, which Sanjay Jha brought up, who has actually had a long history of mental disease. I would urge you to look it up. He also says Donald Trump encouraged the attack on the on January 6th. This is Mr. Donald Trump's last tweet. I want to hold this up to you. I'm going to read it out to you. I am asking for everyone at the US Capitol to remain peaceful. No violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. So you see, this is how Goebbels works, you see. Proximity to George Soros. George Soros works with the SS, using Goebbels tactics. It's all on one side. Let's not forget it was the National Socialist Party. Nazi is short for National Socialist. There's only one socialist around here, and it sure as hell isn't the BJP.
Okay, Mahima saying, you've got your hand up, respond to the charge that's been leveled, that some of the kind of rhetoric that we're seeing is extremely dangerous and therefore potentially creates the opportunity for a lone wolf attack. It doesn't need to come in an orchestrated, planned fashion. It can be just one person who's listening to this juta maro rhetoric, who's listening to this, oh, this is good, this is deserved by the Prime Minister, this kind of shrill rhetoric, and then that can have consequences.
Rahul, first of all, I've been raising my hand for a while now. As condemnable as this attempt on Mr. Trump's life is, the unceremonious prosecution of Mr. Trump for his undemocratic acts is also being witnessed by the world. So when the BJP spokesperson and leader is trying to draw parallels between Mr. Trump and Mr. Modi, I am sure he is also indicating towards the larger public sentiment against Mr. Modi also in the country, which has reflected in the recent election results also. And need I also remind how Mr. Modi in the last Karnataka elections last year actually incited the voters, invoking them, provoking them rather, saying ऐसे बटन दबाओ कि तुम बटन यहाँ दबाओ और फांसी वहां लग जाए. He was inciting vengeance. He was invoking the voters to vote with vengeance. Now that is very, very unbecoming for a sitting prime minister. And I think that is exactly what has led to the number of increased lynchings over the past 10 years. And I hope that we'll see a decline in all sorts of hate crimes, all sorts of dharm sansads and everything that the BJP and the RSS perpetrate and propagate in this country. In the coming years, at least, whatever time the BJP has with the kind of fractured
Okay, so I think we've had a very fascinating conversation. I think our guests have been remarkably good in making the points that they've had. They've brought out their arguments on both sides of the political divide. And I want to leave it to our viewers to decide what they make of this. But remember, there could be potential consequences. I think that's where centrism and the space for lesser rhetoric becomes, lesser shrill rhetoric and polarization becomes important. Because if you make these kind of incendiary comments about your opponents, it can set somebody off, spark a light somewhere where there's an action that's taken of the kind that we saw against former President Trump, this assassination attempt, very, very dangerous. And if anybody says that there is no connect with Indian politics or shrill rhetoric has no impact on the human psyche, that's not correct. It's not just a comment you hear on TV or a post on social media. People react, they take that in, and there could be consequences. I'm glad we've been able to have this conversation. I want to thank all our guests for joining us. What I want to do now is spend some time looking at the impact this attack could have on the US presidential elections. And remember, since the gaffe during the US presidential debate, President Biden's campaign has already been on a downward spiral. Just at this moment, clamor from within the Democrats for the president to step aside have died down because the focus right now is on safety and on the assassination attempt at Donald Trump. But what seems quite clear is that the Democrat candidacy and the effort to be president again for Joe Biden, which was already in jeopardy, is likely to be further impacted because suddenly there's a lot of sympathy for Donald Trump and he could potentially benefit from it. So that really becomes the new X factor, the impact this assassination attempt could have on Donald Trump's run for being president a second time over.
Take a look at what happened.
This has changed the face of the US election. An assassination attempt on Trump, the ex-president emerging with his fist in the air, yelling "fight, fight," has added the most dramatic turn yet to the electrifying US contest, which is months away. The shooting took place during an election rally in Pennsylvania, and Trump was giving an impassioned speech about illegal immigration.
Take a look at what happened.
As the shooting has created ripples in America, the question everyone asking is, what impact will this have on the US election in November? Will this create a sympathy wave for Trump? Will his Make America Great Again campaign gain unprecedented support now? Trump supporters have already begun pouring out onto the streets in solidarity with the ex-president. Polls by the New York Times have given Trump the edge, and this was before the assassination attempt. The national polling average, as per New York Times, is 47% for Trump and 45% for Biden. The timing couldn't be worse for the Democrats. The assassination attempt has taken place a day before the Republican convention. Trump has touched down in Milwaukee to be part of the convention, where he will be officially named as a Republican presidential nominee and where he will also name his vice president candidate.
Extend our deepest condolences.
Biden, on the other hand, has now completely toned down the Trump rhetoric, replacing it with condemnations of political violence.
There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or any violence for that matter. An assassination attempt is contrary to everything we stand for as a nation, everything. It's not who we are as a nation. It's not America. And we cannot allow this to happen. Unity is the most elusive goal of all, but nothing is important than that right now, unity.
Take a look at what happened.
It isn't looking good for the Democrats. First, the disastrous debate.
Take a look at what happened.
And now, this attempted assassination on Trump that further only strengthens the ex-president's campaign. Bureau Report, India Today.
After this assassination bid on Donald Trump, the Secret Service in the United States is under massive fire for being unable to stop this assassination effort. And secondly, videos going viral on social media globally where citizens are pointing to where the shooter was firing from, and for a very long time the Secret Service didn't take action against Thomas Matthew Crooks. The charge being that they were slow, and some even suggesting, floating all kinds of conspiracies, suggesting that this was deliberately done by Secret Service agents. So much so that the likes of Elon Musk have asked for the head of the US Secret Service to actually step down.
Take a look at what happened.
The US Secret Service is confident of security plans at the Republican National Convention. Donald Trump is attending a day after the miraculous escape from assassination attempt.
It's been an 18-month process. We've worked together over that 18 months to develop operational security plans for any and all aspects of security related to this event.
But did it change within the last, and any change been made in the last 24 hours?
We're not anticipating any changes to our operational security plans for this event.
Take a look at what happened.
The FBI and the Milwaukee police are also backing up the Secret Service, now under severe criticism for the Saturday debacle. Experts believe the shooter of the assassination attempt had limited capability, knowledge and training, and yet he was close to killing him.
I would have expected that local law enforcement, at the direction of the Secret Service, would have been positioned on those rooftops. You allocate one to, more likely 2 to 3 officers to take positions along that rooftop or that roof line. But that apparently wasn't done.
We couldn't see him, but we could hear him. So we walked up in probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, But we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle, absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
So you're certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
And he was up there for a couple of minutes.
He was up there.
You saw him up there for a couple of minutes.
Absolutely. At least 3 to 4 minutes.
And you were telling the police and the Secret Service?
We were telling the police. We were pointing at him for the Secret Service, who were looking at us from the top of the barn. They were looking at us the whole time when we were standing by that tree.
Could they see
binoculars?
Could they see him?
Probably not, because the roof, the way the slope went, he was behind where they could see.
The eyewitness account identifying the attacker minutes before points glaringly at the loopholes that the US Secret Service finds hard to answer at this point.
I don't know what to say, man. I'll tell you is, if I walked up close to there with anything that Secret Service considered a problem, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you right now. But I don't know why a guy who we're standing there pointing out to police and Secret Service is crawling up the roof. Yes, right there by that tree. We were outside the security perimeter. But my question is, there's only a few buildings around here. Why is Secret Service not on every building here?
Well, there's a whole bunch of questions, I think, that are going to come.
There's a whole bunch of questions.
This individual was able to make an attack on the former president with limited capability, knowledge, and training. And that concerns me, because what if there was somebody that was really trained in how to assassinate someone?
A sniper employment officer who has led several combat missions in the past, identified as Blake Hall, called the attempt an easy shot on a social media post, as there were major security lapses due to which the shooter could engage Trump from at least 130 meters. Tesla maker and ally Elon Musk has called for the US Secret Service leadership to resign. So did Republican House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson, and added that other appropriate officials from the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI should appear for a hearing at the earliest. Many social media users and Trump supporters have pointed out the absence of drones at the campaign rally, that even experts believe could have kept a watch on buildings outside the security perimeter, but still close to the venue. Bureau Report, India Today.
Hate is mounting on IAS officer Puja Khedkar and her family. Her mother had this video where she was threatening a farmer. That's now gone viral. The mother and her father are now absconding. They seem to have assets of over 40 crore rupees. For IAS officers to have built up those kind of assets, and Puja herself is facing heat for having submitted fake OBC certificates where she says she's non-creamy layer. If you've got 40 crores of assets, you're clearly creamy layer. This both for her MBBS course and for her IAS.
More revelations in the IAS Puja Khedkar case. The IAS trainee had allegedly claimed to be visually impaired in her affidavit to the Union Public Service Commission for the Civil Services exam. But Khedkar made no mention of disability when she sought admission in medical college before that.
उन्होंने NT3 कैटेगरी में एडमिशन लिया था, बिलोंगिंग टू वंजारी कम्युनिटी. तो उसके कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट है, वैलिडिटी है, कास्ट वैलिडिटी और नॉन क्रीमी लेयर सर्टिफिकेट है.
अभी जब वो यूपीएससी अपीयर कर रही है तब उसे मेंटल इलनेस हो या फिर मल्टीपल डिसेबिलिटीज हो, ये अलग अलग दिखाई दे रहे हैं। क्या आपके पास उसका कुछ उस वक्त का मेडिकल फिटनेस के सर्टिफिकेट अवेलेबल है जिसमें ऐसे कुछ उसका जिक्र किया हुआ है?
मेडिकल फिटनेस सर्टिफिकेट तो देना ही पड़ता है, उसका है अपने पास, और उसमें डिसेबिलिटी कोई
इसी फाइल में है?
हाँ है। ओके। और उसके लिए डिसेबिलिटी सर्टिफिकेट कोई नहीं है, इसके लिए सेपरेट सर्टिफिकेट लगता है, वो नहीं है हमारे पास, एंड एब्सेंस ऑफ डिसेबिलिटीज लिखा है उसमें।
Trouble is now mounting for Puja's family as well. The Khedkars are now caught in another controversy over a land dispute. The Pune police claim Puja's parents are on the run and have switched off their mobile phones. Police teams are searching for the couple in Pune and nearby areas. 3 teams have been formed to trace them, but so far the whereabouts of Dilip Khedkar and Manorama Khedkar remain unknown.
उनके खिलाफ पौड़ पुलिस स्टेशन में एफआईआर दर्ज है, वो सिलसिले में हम उनको ढूंढ रहे हैं। उनके पास वो क्राइम के अगेंस्ट इंक्वायरी करना है, और यहाँ आए हैं तो लॉक है उनका घर, और उनके मोबाइल नंबर भी स्विच ऑफ लग रहा है।
The situation escalated for the Khedkars after a video showing Puja's mother Manorama Khedkar threatening a farmer with a firearm went viral. The farmer alleged that the Khedkars had encroached his land and hired goons to beat him up.
Newly launched FIR says that section 504, 506 criminal intimidation has already been added in the newly FIR, but now interestingly traffic police department has seized the Audi with the beacon. Secondly, Pune CP has issued notice to Manorama Khedkar under the violation of Arms Act.
The police have also seized an Audi car used by Puja Khedkar. The vehicle was found with a red and blue beacon, a VIP number plate and Maharashtra government written on it, all in violation of the Motor Vehicles Act and what Puja Khedkar is entitled to as an IAS officer trainee. Puja is silent on the allegations against her and her family.
जो भी जांच कमेटी है उनके सामने I will keep all my things.
As the search for Manorama and her husband continues, the controversy surrounding the Khedkar family escalates. A government panel is already investigating whether Puja Khedkar got a disability certificate and non-creamy layer OBC certificate in violation of norms to get selected into the IAS. The whole saga has exposed serious issues of power misuse. With Omkar Wable in Pune, Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where we wrap up the Newstrack tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.